I don't understand how attacking Iran was in U.S. national interests. I fully understand how this was in Israel's interest, and the Israelis have long wanted us to attack Iran and to overthrow the regime in Tehran. I get that.
So Tucker Carlson just aired explosive testimony from a former CIA officer about Israeli influence over American foreign policy. And this explains why we keep getting dragged into Middle East wars that serve Israel's interests over ours. This insider's revelations validate what many suspected but couldn't prove. Let's break this down.
I hate to say it, but I do, actually. I think that the Israelis, look, I understand what a close friend and ally Israel is and always has been. I get it. But I feel like sometimes we act in Israel's best interests rather than in our own best interests. I think this is one of those cases. The Israelis, of course, are going to jump up and down and yell about the Irish and the Spanish and the Italians.
Right.
But we should, let them vent and then do what's in the best interest of the United States. And I feel like we're not really doing that. We're doing Israel's bidding for it.
He's absolutely right about Iran's nuclear capabilities. The 2007 and 2011 national intelligence estimates both concluded Iran had no active weapons program. Even Netanyahu's own military intelligence disagreed with his war rhetoric. Yet we're told Iran poses an existential threat requiring immediate military action.
They don't have a delivery system that could deliver a nuclear weapon to the United States. And, when you've got two national intelligence estimates, a national intelligence estimate is a sense of the entire intelligence community, all 18 organizations within the U.S. intelligence community, unanimously concluding that there is no Iranian nuclear weapons program twice, as well as the late...
There's no program.
No program. No. Ayatollah Khamenei issued a fatwa in 2003 declaring it a sin to develop a nuclear weapon. And then the CIA twice said they don't have a nuclear weapons program.
That 2003 fatwa is real and binding under Shia Islamic law. Supreme Leader Khamenei declared nuclear weapons haram, religiously forbidden. Combined with CIA assessments showing no weapons program, this completely undermines the justification for military strikes that benefit only Israel's regional dominance strategy.
As you know, you've heard the same criticisms that I've heard in the Gulf. The complaints are that they were not consulted as allies. They were just sort of brought along. And I was in Europe a couple of weeks ago and a couple of weeks before that, and I heard the same complaints that they weren't consulted. The only apparent consultation that was taking place was with the Israelis. And the Israelis really, really wanted this to get done.
So why would you, as a practical matter, need to consult other countries? Because there is this sense, like as an exceptional nation, we don't need anyone's permission to act. But again, not as an ideological matter or a matter of politeness or good form, but as a practical matter before launching a war, why do you need to talk to the Europeans and the Gulf states?
At the very least, you're going to want political cover. You're also going to want to give them an opportunity to come up with plan B for their, let's say, oil or gas needs or transportation issues. You don't want them to be taken by surprise because they're going to resent you in the end.
Right.
And we didn't do that, and they resent us.
This reveals how American diplomacy has been fundamentally compromised. Instead of consulting NATO allies, Arab partners, or even Congress first, Israeli preferences became the primary input for major military decisions. That's not alliance management, that's foreign policy subordination.
I was in Ireland 2 weeks ago, and at the hotel, they told me I was probably going to have to leave extra early for the airport because they were expecting the largest demonstration in Irish history, which took place the next morning, and it was all because of home heating oil prices and gasoline prices. We didn't consult with the Irish or the British or anybody else before launching this thing. They were already having problems because of the cutoff of home heating oil coming from Russia because of the Ukraine war. And then this was just doubly difficult for them. And so we figured it out. Gas was $12.50 a gallon. I mean, if you don't have an
gasoline,
$12.50 a gallon, and home heating oil was astronomical to the point where people were just, freezing, and they're blaming us for it. So you want to be able to consult our friends and allies so that they have a chance to come up with a plan to make the hurt on their own people a little bit less severe.
AIPAC's unique status is the smoking gun. Every other foreign lobby must register under FARA, but AIPAC operates freely as a, quote, domestic organization despite explicitly advancing Israeli government positions. Kennedy understood this threat to sovereignty. His resistance likely sealed his fate.
But that's really the $64,000 question. You recall in the first term when President Trump met with Vladimir Putin, he did not take his intelligence people into the meeting with him. Putin took his intelligence people into the meeting with him because the president said he trusted the other side's intelligence people more than he trusted his own. And I get it. I get that he believes that he was under direct threat from, the deep state and the John Brennans of the world. I understand that. But I'm surprised that feeling, that belief has held over all this way into the second term, where you would believe the Israeli information before you would believe your own people's information, especially when you know that the Israelis have a vested interest in you doing their dirty work for them.
The Kennedy connection isn't conspiracy theory. It's documented history. Johnson reversed JFK's opposition to Israeli nuclear weapons immediately after taking office. Israeli access to nuclear technology and AIPAC's political immunity both trace back to November 1963. The timing is impossible to ignore.
Almost all of that heroin goes to Iran and Russia, and we want them to be addicted to heroin. It weakens their societies. And I never got it published. Well, fast forward years later.
That's disgusting.
We've got a fentanyl epidemic in this country. That fentanyl is coming from China and Mexico. They want us to be addicted to fentanyl because it weakens our society. And that's why we're in the predicament that we're in.
That Tehran slip reveals the entire game plan. Iraq was never the end game, just step one toward regime change in Iran. General Franks accidentally admitted what Israeli strategists had pushed for decades, using American blood and treasure to reshape the Middle East for Israeli security.
That's it, because the CIA analysis has been consistent over the course of decades. We can't just fire a couple of rockets and take down a government in a country of 93 million people. That's just not the way real life works. They're going to rally around their leadership because we're outsiders.
And just, you make the point about history, but I mean, I think Saudi is probably in competition, but I mean, of all the countries in that part of the world, Iran is the most durable. I mean, it's a real country.
It's a real country with a proud history stretching back millennia.
Yes.
History proves invasion fantasies always fail. Iraqis didn't throw flowers. They launched an insurgency that killed 4,400 Americans. Yet we're hearing identical liberation rhetoric about Iran today. Those who ignore Iraq's lessons are condemned to repeat them in Tehran.
Only through diplomacy. That's it. Whether we like it or not, especially whether the Israelis like it or not, we are going to have to sit across the table from these people and come up with an agreement. It's going to be an agreement that we are not going to be 100% happy with. But that's what diplomacy is all about.
Not happy with, you mean Iran will be more powerful at the end of this than they were at the outset?
I think that's an inevitability. We have forced the Iranians into the embrace of the Chinese and the Russians and the Indians. And we're going to get to the point where we're just not going to be able to stand up against that kind of an alliance and make meaningful gains.
Smart strategy divides your enemies. Instead, we've pushed Iran into a military alliance with China and Russia, exactly what benefits Israeli regional dominance while weakening American global position. This serves Netanyahu's interests by eliminating Iranian independence, not American security.
You do?
I do. They're going to have to live with it because the American people do not support a long-term conflict in Iran. The American people do not support boots on the ground. This is one of those areas we were talking about an hour ago where the left and the right come together. They can agree on this, and they will not support
Does that matter?
boots on the ground.
I mean, I'm
think
hearing
it does.
calls for a draft.
Oh, yeah. I've heard the same thing.
So a draft is the most totalitarian thing you can do, forcing people to go die for something they don't agree with.
Mm-hmm.
I don't hear any calls for like a nationwide referendum every time we want to send troops abroad. If you coupled the two, if you said, yeah, we're going to draft your son, but you also get to decide whether to send him or not, that would seem like a democratic way to handle it.
That's right.
But this is a totalitarian way to handle it.
Can you imagine the electoral bloodbath that would take place if Congress voted in favor of a draft?
The political calculation is crystal clear. Americans across party lines oppose Iranian ground wars. Even Trump's base won't support drafting their sons for Netanyahu's regional ambitions. This bipartisan opposition explains why even former Trump allies are breaking ranks.
When I put my hand in the air on my very first day at the CIA and I promised to protect and defend the Constitution against all enemies, domestic and foreign, I meant it. And I hate to think that I was the only person in the room that day that did.
Yeah.
And I think for the most part, it's Republicans who respect that. So I've spoken with very high level, well-placed people close to the president, both in and out of government. I know that the president knows that I've applied for the pardon. I will admit to you that I disagree with the president's policy on Iran, but I don't think that's a big deal. I mean, people disagree. To me, that's a normal part of life. Maybe you and I don't agree on everything. We're still friends. And so I'm hoping that he does the right thing.
Kiryakau sacrificed his freedom to expose CIA torture, while war hawks who've never served demand other people's children fight Israel's battles. This is moral courage, putting constitutional principles above foreign lobbying pressure and personal political advancement.